Welcome back to Coin's Seller Network, where we explore rare coins, valuable errors, important varieties, fascinating history, and the hidden clues that collectors look for. Today, we are focusing on the 1971 Kennedy half dollar and the incredible headline value of $605,000. But here is the important part. Not every 1971 half dollar is worth anything close to that amount. A spectacular valuation would require an exceptionally rare, authenticated, and highly desirable example. So let's discover what makes this coin interesting and exactly what you should check if you have one.
1971 Kennedy half dollar.
The 1971 Kennedy half dollar is an important coin in the history of American coinage because it belongs to the Kennedy half dollar series that began in 1964, shortly after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The design quickly became one of the most recognizable in United States currency. The obverse features Kennedy's portrait, while the reverse displays the presidential seal with an eagle surrounded by stars. By 1971, the Kennedy half dollar had already gone through several major composition changes. The earliest 1964 Kennedy half dollars were struck in 90% silver, while later issues used reduced silver content. By 1971, regular Kennedy half dollars were being produced in copper-nickel-clad composition rather than traditional silver. This is an extremely important point for anyone searching for a 1971 example. Many people see an old half dollar and immediately assume that it must contain silver. That assumption can lead to confusion. A 1971 Kennedy half dollar should not automatically be treated as a silver coin simply because of its age. Instead, collectors examine the exact issue, mint mark, composition, condition, and any unusual characteristics. One of the first things you should inspect is the date. Make sure the final digit is actually a 1. Old coins can have worn or damaged dates, and sometimes lighting can make a digit appear different than it really is. Once the date is confirmed, examine the mint mark and compare the coin with reliable references. Condition is another major factor. Imagine finding two 1971 Kennedy half dollars. One has been circulating for decades, with scratches, dull surfaces, flattened details, and numerous contact marks. The other has sharp details, strong original luster, clean surfaces, and very little evidence of circulation. These coins may look similar to someone unfamiliar with grading, but collectors can see a huge difference. The highest quality examples can attract serious attention because collectors compete for coins with exceptional grades and eye appeal. A coin that has survived for decades in nearly pristine condition is naturally more desirable than a heavily circulated example. However, there is another category that can make a coin much more exciting: mint errors. During the manufacturing process, coins pass through multiple stages. Metal is prepared into planchets, dies are created, coins are struck, inspected, and then released. When something goes wrong during this process, a genuine mint error can occur. Depending on the type and severity of the error, these coins can become highly collectible. For a 1971 Kennedy half dollar, you should carefully examine the entire coin for unusual mint-made characteristics. Look at the date, lettering, portrait, rim, and reverse design. Pay attention to anything that appears dramatically different from a normal example. But be careful. Not every unusual-looking coin is an error. A scratch is not necessarily an error. A dent is not automatically a mint mistake. A coin that has been flattened, heated, drilled, polished, or otherwise altered after leaving the mint may have little or no additional collector value. Genuine mint errors are created during production, and identifying them correctly can require specialized knowledge. The edge is also worth examining. Hold the coin carefully by its edges and inspect it under good lighting. Look for anything unusual in the construction or appearance. If the coin appears significantly different from a normal 1971 Kennedy half dollar, professional examination may be worthwhile. Another important factor is the mint mark. Kennedy half dollars can have different mint origins, and the mint mark can help collectors identify the specific issue. Because tiny details can sometimes be difficult to see on circulated coins, using magnification can make the inspection much easier. If you think you have discovered something special, Resist the temptation to clean the coin. This is one of the biggest mistakes inexperienced collectors make. They see dark surfaces or discoloration and think the coin will become more valuable if it is polished. Unfortunately, cleaning can leave scratches and unnatural surfaces that professional collectors immediately recognize. An original coin with natural surfaces is usually far more desirable than a cleaned coin. Now let's discuss the $605,000 value that makes this topic so exciting. A 1971 Kennedy half-dollar should not be assumed to be worth $605,000. That kind of number represents an extraordinary headline-level valuation that would require exceptional circumstances. For a coin to reach such an extreme price, collectors would expect compelling evidence of rarity, condition, a major legitimate mint error, a unique variety, or another extraordinary characteristic. Professional authentication and grading would be essential. This is why you should never rely on a random online listing when determining the value of your coin. Someone can list an ordinary coin for hundreds of thousands of dollars, but an asking price is not the same as an actual sale price. Instead, focus on evidence. Look for documented auction results, reputable grading information, recognized varieties, and professional opinions. If your coin has a dramatic error, an unusually high grade, or another remarkable characteristic, authentication can help determine whether the feature is genuine. There is also a fascinating historical story behind the Kennedy half-dollar itself. The coin was introduced in 1964 as a tribute to President Kennedy, and its popularity caused many Americans to save the coins rather than spend them. Over the years, Kennedy half-dollars became popular with collectors and families who kept them as souvenirs. By 1971, the series was already well established. The coin represents an important era of American history and the evolution of U.S. coinage. Even when a particular specimen is not extremely valuable, it can still be an interesting addition to a collection. So, if you have a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar, what should you do? Start by examining both sides carefully. Confirm the date. Identify the mint mark. Inspect the portrait, lettering, rim, and reverse. Look for genuine mint-made abnormalities rather than ordinary damage. Check the overall condition and avoid cleaning the coin. If something appears unusual, take clear photographs and consider having the coin examined by a professional. For a potentially valuable specimen, proper authentication can make the difference between an exciting discovery and an expensive misunderstanding. And remember, coin collecting is not only about finding a six-figure treasure. It is about understanding what you have. Every coin has a story, and learning how coins were made helps you recognize the difference between ordinary wear and something genuinely unusual. The next time you see a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar, don't dismiss it just because it looks common. Look closely. A tiny detail in the date, mint mark, strike, or surface could make you want to investigate further. Could a spectacular 1971 Kennedy half-dollar ever be connected to a $605,000 headline valuation? Only an extraordinary and properly authenticated specimen could justify a number anywhere near that level. For most examples, the value will be dramatically lower. But that does not make the search less exciting. So before you spend that old half-dollar, check it carefully. Turn it over. Examine the details. Look at the edge. Compare it with a normal example. And if you discover something you cannot explain, don't clean it and don't rush to sell it. This is Coin Seller Network, and our mission is to help you look at everyday coins with a collector's eye. Keep searching your change, old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten drawers. Because sometimes the most interesting discoveries are hiding where you least expect them. That 1971 Kennedy half-dollar may be an ordinary 50-cent coin, or it may contain a fascinating characteristic worth investigating. Either way, the only way to know is to look closely. Keep checking, keep learning, and never underestimate the story behind an old coin. Before you spend that old half-dollar sitting in a drawer, a coin jar, or an inherited collection, stop and take a closer look. What if an ordinary-looking 1977 Kennedy half-dollar could become the most exciting coin you have ever discovered? Welcome back to Coin Seller Network, where we uncover the history, details, errors, varieties, condition factors, and potential value behind American coins. Today, we are taking a close look at the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar and the incredible possibility of a coin connected to a headline value of $605,000. But remember, not every 1977 half-dollar is worth anywhere near that amount. The real story is in rarity, condition, minting characteristics, and whether a genuine and significant error or exceptional specimen exists.
1977 Kennedy half-dollar.
The 1977 Kennedy half-dollar is one of those coins that can easily be overlooked. It was produced during an interesting period in American coinage, when the Kennedy half-dollar had already become a familiar part of U.S. currency. The obverse features the famous portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, while the reverse shows the presidential seal, designed by Frank Gasparo. The coin has a face value of 50 cents, but collectors know that face value is only the beginning of the story. The 1977 Kennedy half-dollar was struck in copper-nickel-clad composition for regular circulation issues. That means the coin does not contain the silver content found in earlier Kennedy half-dollars from the 1960s. This is one of the first things collectors consider when examining a 1977 example. Many people assume that every old half-dollar must contain silver, but the 1977 issue is generally a copper-nickel-clad coin rather than a traditional silver half-dollar. So why would anyone pay serious money for a 1977 half-dollar? The answer is that collectors do not simply collect dates. They look for exceptional condition, unusual minting characteristics, recognized varieties, and genuine errors. A coin that looks ordinary at first can become much more interesting when examined under proper lighting and magnification. One of the most important details to check is the mint mark. Depending on the specific issue, the presence or absence of a mint mark can tell you where the coin was produced. On Kennedy half-dollars, the mint mark is located on the obverse near the lower portion of the portrait, above the date area. When examining your coin, make sure you know exactly what you are looking for because dirt, wear, scratches, or damage can make small details difficult to identify. Condition is another major factor. Imagine two 1977 Kennedy half-dollars sitting side by side. One has heavy scratches, dull surfaces, contact marks, and obvious wear. The other has sharp details, attractive surfaces, strong luster, and very little evidence of circulation. Even though they carry the same date, their collector appeal can be dramatically different. For valuable coins, preservation matters. Collectors and professional grading services carefully examine the fields, portrait, lettering, rims, and other surfaces. A coin with exceptional original surfaces can attract much more attention than a heavily circulated example. This is why you should never clean a potentially collectible coin. Cleaning can create scratches or unnatural surfaces and may significantly reduce collector interest. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where many coin hunters become especially interested. During the minting process, coins can occasionally experience mistakes. These mistakes can include striking problems, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, doubled features, die-related abnormalities, or other unusual characteristics. However, there is an important difference between a true mint error and ordinary damage. A scratch created after the coin left the mint is not automatically a valuable error. A dent caused by dropping the coin is not a mint error. Discoloration caused by environmental exposure does not necessarily make a coin rare. The key is determining whether the unusual feature was created during the manufacturing process. If you are searching through your own collection, start with the date. Confirm that you actually have a 1977 Kennedy half-dollar. Next, inspect the mint mark and overall condition. Look carefully at the lettering, date, portrait, rim, and reverse design. Use a magnifying glass if necessary, but avoid touching the surfaces excessively. Hold the coin by its edges whenever possible. Another important step is checking the weight and appearance against known specifications. If a coin seems dramatically different from a normal example, that does not automatically mean it is valuable. It could have been damaged, altered, or exposed to unusual conditions after leaving the mint. But a genuine mint-made anomaly can be extremely interesting to specialists. The reverse deserves just as much attention as the obverse. Examine the presidential seal, the eagle, the stars, lettering, and rim. Look for unusual striking characteristics rather than random scratches. A strong strike can preserve details that disappear quickly on circulated coins, and high-grade examples can become particularly attractive to collectors. There is also a psychological reason the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar remains interesting. Half-dollars were not used as frequently in everyday transactions as smaller denominations, so many examples were saved by the public. Some entered collections, some remained in bank rolls, and others spent decades sitting untouched in drawers. This means that coin hunters can still encounter older Kennedy half-dollars in unexpected places. But the biggest lesson is simple. Age alone does not make a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A 1977 coin is nearly 5 decades old. But age is only one factor. Rarity, condition, demand, authenticity, and exceptional characteristics are what can separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary one. So where does the $605,000 figure fit into this story? Think of it as a dramatic target value associated with an exceptionally rare or extraordinary specimen, not as the normal value of every 1977 Kennedy half-dollar. Most 1977 Kennedy half-dollars are far more modestly valued, and many circulated examples remain close to their face value. The $605,000 figure should therefore be treated as a headline-level possibility requiring extraordinary evidence, not as a guaranteed price. And remember, never polish, scrub, dip, or chemically clean your coin before an evaluation. What looks like dirt to you could actually be original surface toning, and what looks like an improvement can permanently damage the coin. This is exactly why coin hunting can be so exciting. A coin that appears to be nothing more than 50 cents can contain a story about American history, the U.S. Mint, manufacturing technology, collecting culture, and sometimes an unusual mistake that escaped quality control. So take another look at that 1977 Kennedy half-dollar. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Check the surfaces. Check the strike. Check the edge. And most importantly, check before you spend it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1977 Kennedy half-dollar, make sure you stay connected with Coin Seller Network for more discoveries involving Lincoln pennies, Washington quarters, Kennedy half-dollars, Jefferson nickels, and other coins that could be hiding in collections and pocket change. Remember, the goal is not to believe every huge valuation you hear. The goal is to learn what makes a coin genuinely rare and valuable. Your 1977 half-dollar may be an ordinary coin worth around its basic collector value, or it could have an unusual characteristic that deserves a much closer examination. And if you ever encounter an authenticated, extraordinary specimen connected to a headline value such as $605,000, that would be a truly remarkable discovery. So before you spend your next old half-dollar, look twice. Because sometimes the smallest details are the ones that make collectors stop and pay attention. Keep searching, keep learning, and keep checking your change. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight.